getting into compliance. So there are some mechanisms that are in place that are designed to deal with that.
Yeah, I have a question. First question is, there's a lot of details that are not here. I happen to have been a project manager for groundwater monitoring up at Hanford site. I also was the manager for septic tanks and water quality at Sandia. There's an awful lot of information that's not presented here, so my first question, what's the technical basis upon which you've made, the county, the state has made these decisions? And that's my first question, so I'd like to get that answered. My second one is, you're not looking at this as an entire system. And by that, I mean we all contribute to the problem with groundwater contamination. However, the burden is being put on the backs of those people who arbitrarily have less than 0.75 acres. So I look at that map over there, and I see an interesting stream of red coming down. Yeah. So why, or I'll ask another question, has the county considered perhaps putting a single line in that area so that the cost of groundwater contamination for the entire Sandia Heights, Bernalillo County, is not borne by the people that are in that red line? So why don't we have a bond that goes in place that the entire community shares the cost of groundwater contamination? I have 2 people in my house, 0.65 acres. I am not contaminating the groundwater any more than my neighbor who has 6 kids, okay, and has 0.85 acres, but yet I'm bearing the cost of groundwater contamination for the entire county. So I would recommend that before this goes into place, that we'd have some sort of a complete systems analysis for the entire groundwater problem that we have. And by that, by putting in perhaps a selected bond where we can take a line that we would get off of our septic tanks, and frankly, it's going to cost me a lot less to get off my septic tank and pay for a single line that goes down, and then I'm tied into the broader wastewater treatment plant for the city.
These are good questions, Joe, thank you. And I think this is a good reason why we have gotten this conversation started in 2010 and not 2014. Because some of the solutions you're recommending are really outside of what I have the scope of ability to do within the Office of Environmental Health. These are larger political questions. Some of the, but
I think this is a technical issue, though.
The basic technical question that I'm faced with is, are we at least as stringent as what's called for by the state of New Mexico? So I am sort of punting that answer over to the state because I do have to be at least as compliant with them. So that's how I'd like to answer that question.
So I would like to get the first part of my answer. The first question I had, where's the technical basis? Can you provide that answer to me at some point?
I can kind of give you a little bit of information, and it may not answer your question entirely, but it may give some insight into what you're asking. Basically, the regulation is based on nitrogen loading, and so in New Mexico, the number that has been developed is 91.3 pounds per acre. So the regulations, if you look at that chart, the smaller the lot size, those are the ones that are impacted more because of there's more density. Basically, there's a higher density, and the nitrogen loading numbers become more relevant when you're applying it to a to the lot size, to the acreage. So the more acreage you have, basically the more buffering capacity you have.
Well, just a reference, if I could, later.
Yes, sure, okay.
Gentleman in the red shirt.
Yeah, I have an aerator system that was built in 2003. Since it was built, I've had more than 4 pumps replacing what was there. Is the technology up to par, or are we experimenting with pumps?
The gentleman's question is in reference to an existing high-tech system that he's got, and he had it installed in 2003, and since then he's had to replace the pump 4 times, okay? I think my answer to that would be, I can't say I can't really say if that's unusual. I mean, to me, it sounds like something's wrong, okay? Is somebody selling you a low-quality pump? Is there some, is something in the switch that turns that pump on and off that's wrong? Is there, it's just hard for me to diagnose that problem without actually looking at it. It does sound to me like there's something wrong with that. Why should a pump not last more than 3 years?
1 year I had to spend 800 something.
I think that's really, the best answer I can give you in this short amount of time is perhaps you should shop around for somebody who's going to sell you a pump that's going to answer this problem, okay? Because I just don't know enough about the pump technology.
Well, the other thing is the maintenance agreement. For instance, I had a maintenance agreement with American Pumping, and all they did is cruise by. And for that, I had to pay $50. All they did was look if the light was on or not. And the annual contract was for $200.
I appreciate that remark. I've heard other comments about maintenance contracts that there's limited competition and the price of the maintenance agreement keeps going up every year. So, I don't have an immediate answer to that, but I appreciate you sharing the problem with me, because if we get the discussion going, then we can reach a solution. But I can't tell you what the answer to that question is today. Gentleman right there.
In 2006, Sandia Heights requested that we be exempt from the ordinance. At the January 24th meeting.
Please be quiet, everyone.
We were told we couldn't get an exemption. However, they did approve a lot size variance for Sandia Heights. And I would like to know more information about that.
Will you repeat? We couldn't hear the question.
The question is whether, when the ordinance changed in 2006, as I mentioned earlier, we went through a small ordinance change in 2006. According to Mr. Witten, the Sandia Heights area got a variance on the lot size requirement. I'm not knowledgeable about that. I don't believe that's presently in the county code. I'm not aware of it.
We were told, I asked at that time whether it was going to be documented in the ordinance, and they said no. However, it's in the minutes of the meeting on 24 January 2006. And it was a lot size variance based on the 5-year history of the water usage in a particular home. So if you have a 5-bedroom home with only 2 people living there, and you can show that your water usage was less than such, we were told that we would get a lot size variance until the lot, or until the property was sold.
I was not aware of that, and I think maybe we should meet about it at a later date to really get into the details of it, because that's an important question that was probably going to come up again. So I can't answer it right now, but let's set up a meeting where we can.
Okay. Kevin Troutman was the one I was dealing with at the time. I don't know what his position is.
He's no longer with the county, but we know him. We know where he is.
Okay, but it should be in the minutes.
Thank you. And January 9th, 2006?
January 24th, 2006.
January 24th, 2006, the gentleman in the back.
Yeah, what triggers your investigation of individuals? If I call you and ask you what your papers show about my particular property, will this trigger your investigation?
Basically, what we're doing at this point is, when you call me and you say, look, here's my lot size, or here's my address, okay, give me an assessment of what I'm going to have to do. That's not going to result in any enforcement, okay? Basically, we're just trying to get those requests answered as quickly as possible, a couple of days turnaround at most, and basically just helping people understand what they have to do. Because it's going to be easy for me to make that determination about what lots are likely to be in compliance and what ones are not as we approach the deadline. So I don't really care.
But this will not trigger an investigation?
No, sir. The lady standing in the back.
What if you were one of those fortunate or unfortunate, however you would look at it, persons that may have purchased a home after those days, but have one of those real estate agents that you said weren't enforcing it, so we're just out of luck?
You can do the evaluation now. okay?
They are expensive.